Hello, everyone, and welcome to another hour of Cruise Control. Les, we have a big story that I think a lot of people that want to buy a new vehicle will be interested in. Is the future paying over MSRP for a new vehicle? Is that the future? Well, one executive says, yes, it is, and it's not going to change. I think that got a lot of people mad about that. Meanwhile, other manufacturers are saying if you keep doing it, you're not going to get new cars, dealers. And we're also going to talk about a range boost for the Volkswagen ID4, which is good news. Not a huge boost, but going in the right direction. And then what happens when 3G cell service goes away? What does that mean to your older vehicle, and how are you going to be able to get 5G in your vehicle? One manufacturer is talking about that.
Yep, that's going to be tricky.
Yeah. Now, what if you bought, this is certainly a first world problem, but what if you bought a last of its kind V12 Lamborghini Aventador, and it burned up on a transport ship? Well, that's what happened to many. Are they going to be able to rebuild these or build new ones? Who knows? We'll talk about that. And then I'm going to have an at the wheel of a certainly much more affordable than the Aventador Toyota Corolla Hatch, which got a lot of compliments. People like the way it looked. It's got sort of like a Ford Grabber blue going on there. But all that's coming up, Les Jackson. Corolla Hatchback, a great value. For sure, and you basically load it up and it's 25 grand. Hey, we'll be right back on Cruise Control.
This is Cruise Control. Your on-air automotive magazine with co-hosts Fred Staub and Les Jackson. Everything you need to know about new and used cars. Industry news. We'll fix or repair your car on the air. Fasten your seatbelts.
That's right. It is about to begin. Whoops, it's begun already.
It did.
Welcome to Cruise Control. I'm Fred Staub, and the other voice you heard is none other than Les Jackson. And
that would be me. I just looked at my ID this morning.
Well, now that we know who we are, and now
Yes.
you know who we are, we're glad to bring you a full hour of automotive news and information. If you're out buying a vehicle, wow, it's a tough time, but
Please don't.
we're gonna tell you what's coming down the pike, and what's coming down the pike, according to one of the automotive executives, is not something that I think people want to hear. Dealer markups, are they here to stay? Is paying over the manufacturer's suggested retail price, under, I should say, a thing of the past? And one executive says it's the new way of doing business. You will pay over MSRP, and you will like it, and it's not going to change. But some manufacturers, Les, are fighting back.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're going to have an interesting discussion about that. And over at VW, the ID4 gets a boost, a modest boost, but a boost in its range.
Yeah, not a bad thing. And we're going to talk tech. What if that rear hatch on your SUV, instead of raising up in the air, actually slid over the car? Well, one manufacturer is talking about that, and it's funny because there was a model from the early 2000s that GMC built.
Yep.
We'll do a little trivia question test for you later, Les.
That's right.
Had the same feature, right?
That's true. And 3G cell service, for those of you who still have flip phones, it's going away, and you probably know that. And what does that mean for your older vehicle? Because they were built on a 3G platform. So, hey, can you change it?
Yeah, well, we'll tell you about that, and one manufacturer that's bringing 5G into their vehicles. And then what happens if you ordered one of the last Aventadors, the special edition Lamborghini? It was put on a ship. That ship caught fire. The assembly line is closed. So what is Lamborghini going to do for those folks? Will they reopen the V12 Aventador assembly line so they can fulfill those orders? As I said, it's certainly a first world problem with what's going compared to what's going on in the world right now.
And there were a bunch of Porsches on that ship too. So you're right. It's a problem that only affects very well-to-do people, but it's still a problem.
It's still a problem. I mean, it certainly is, and it's a problem for Lamborghini. And then, not a Lamborghini, but a very sporty car for a lot less money than a Lamborghini. Probably could buy one wheel on a Lamborghini for the price of this. We're going to have an at-the-wheel review of the Toyota Corolla Hatchback, looking very good in that two-tone paint. So that is coming up on Cruise Control, your on-air automotive magazine with Fred Staub and Les Jackson. Stay tuned because we're just getting started. We'll be right back.
Cruise Control.
And welcome back to Cruise Control. I'm Les, he's Fred, and Fred, to start this story, I'm going to say what America feels about car dealers in the words of Captain Hook.
Okay, go for it.
Which is, I hate car dealers.
Yeah.
So, now, what are they doing to even increase that hate?
Well, let's talk about it. We've been talking about it on Cruise Control. They are doing $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 markups.
Yep.
They are taking every vehicle on their lot and saying, "Oh, we filled it with nitrogen in the tires. That's $400, $500, whether you like it or want it or not." They are doing paperwork fees, $1,000 prep fees. Just, you know, as I told you last week, we had a friend of family buy a Honda Civic, and they said, we have to charge you, we must charge you $5,000 over the MSRP.
That ain't gonna happen.
Not forever. Maybe right now, but
well, if you absolutely need it, but if you don't, you know, put the $5,000 into fixing your car.
Yeah.
Because you're going to lose it either way, but this way you don't have to buy the new one.
Well, interesting this week because there's a lot going on here. There's multiple parts of this story. The AutoNation CEO, Mike Manley, he was the former CEO of FCA, used to run Jeep. He's been on the show before. And he said during an investor's earning call that basically we will not return to excessively high inventory levels that depress new car margins. Significantly discounting and high incentives damage the brand, and it's another reason our industry will have to balance appropriately supply and demand. And what a lot of people took his discussion to say is that he feels paying over MSRP will be the norm going forward because he feels that car manufacturers should not build as many cars and keep the inventory tight. And
that's easy to say, but you can't. You know, the manufacturers have been selling 17 million or so vehicles every year. Why wouldn't they continue? That's what the demand is.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't they continue to make that? Well, you can't tell the manufacturer, well, I don't want you to build 50,000 of this model. I only want you to build 40,000. Well, they're going to say no.
No, I know. The dealer can't control that. And the other thing is that basically he's saying has no intention of lowering prices ever. And also, he said that a very small percentage of people pay over MSRP. I don't think that is correct.
That's not
Everyone
true.
I hear, whether you're
Yep,
buying a in-demand vehicle, let's say like a Ford Bronco, or as I just mentioned, a basic transportation Honda Civic, is paying over sticker. People are driving across 4 states to find someone that will just sell a vehicle MSRP. And it's a
that's
funny
right.
thing about supply and demand. These dealers, while they don't do us any favors as consumers, they will fight each other. They don't do each other. They're not going to stick together as a big blob. Somebody will
Absolutely.
say, hey, you know what? I'm going to say no BS pricing, MSRP, and I'm not going to charge you for $500 to spray your seats with a $5 can of water repellent that you can buy at a local grocery store. I'm not going to fill your tires with nitrogen when you didn't want them filled with nitrogen, and it doesn't really do a whole heck of a
Yep.
lot.
And I'm not going to undercoat it
I'm
when
not
in fact the undercoating voids the factory rust warranty.
right, and I'm not
Uh,
going to charge you $1,000 to pull some plastic off the floor or do some paperwork. And
yeah,
that's what happens, because then that person will just start selling more vehicles and building a brand. And I think people will remember this. Like, if they really needed a vehicle and they're like, "Hey, I can't drive to Florida to get it for MSRP. I just need it now to get to work," and somebody really stuck it to them, I think they're going to remember it, don't you?
oh, listen, I'd remember it. I hold a grudge really well.
Well, don't hold that grudge over the break, because when we come back, we're going to tell you about what some manufacturers are doing to dealers that are gouging people. So stay tuned. There's another part to this story. We got more on Cruise Control.
Cruise Control.
We are having a great discussion about what's going on with dealers. We told you a little bit about Mike Manley, who is the head of Auto Nation. He's the CEO. He said, prices aren't going down anytime soon. Keep it tight.
He's not soon, but he's wrong about the future.
Do the $5,000, $6,000, $10,000 markups. Nobody likes this, and consumers certainly don't, and they're writing to car companies. Here we have a article from the head of Subaru, the CEO. One of people have the loyalty to this brand is amazing. It always comes out on top, and the CEO's name is Thomas J. Dowell. He said that they've been getting notes, emails, and communications about Subaru dealers selling way over MSRP. They don't like it. He outlined no punishment, but he said taking advantage of the current market imbalance between supply and demand is something a car dealer would do. It's not something a Subaru retailer would consider doing. Interesting, right?
Very interesting.
And then Hyundai, over at Hyundai, you remember we had that case where there was a EV6 that is like, I don't know, a $40,000 vehicle, and the dealer
About
was
40,
selling it for $87,000, right?
Yeah.
And according to Automotive News, Hyundai and Genesis are warning against so-called market adjustments, noting that they are damaging the brand image. And there's a lot of letters coming in to the heads of these companies complaining about this stuff. As I said, the worst example, there was a couple of really bad examples. Hyundai Ioniq 5 was one of their most affordable EVs. One dealer was charging $66,188. Another Kia dealership was charging $87,231 for an EV6. I mean, you know, there's one thing to say, okay, I got to charge you $1,000, $2,000 more. There's another thing to think I'm going to like make enough money to retire on one sale, right?
Well, yeah, and the manufacturers don't have, they can't force the dealers to not do this, but they have one thing, and it's called consumer satisfaction, which all of the dealers for 30 years are graded by surveys. And if your satisfaction index is low, that you don't get as many allocated vehicles to sell.
I think what people should do, Les, is go to their local dealers and look at the stickers and take pictures of the stickers.
Yeah.
And show and just post it on social media and say, okay. I mean, it's not anything wrong. It's public information. It's right out there on the sticker. But say,
that's true.
Hey, look at this dealer XYZ is not only selling over MSRP, but they're asking thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars more. They have to put it on the sticker. They can't just add it as a line at the end of the contract without telling you, right? They have to.
They actually print their own stickers that go next to the window sticker
that says market adjustment or whatever, I never liked the fact that they add that crap to the cars too.
I think
the
it's
seat spray and
very unethical.
Yeah, and most of it's crap. Also, you don't want it on your car.
Well, most of it is utter nonsense. Fabric protection is in fact Scotch Guard.
Yeah, you can buy a $5 can of that at the grocery store. So
that's right.
And if
paint protection is acrylic wax.
You can buy that for what, $100?
No, well, have it done for $100. You can buy the stuff for about $15.
Yeah. So there you go. It's just pure profit, and they probably put it on with a dirty rag too.
Well, there have been cases which have actually been in court. I was an expert witness at a couple of them that they charged for it, but they didn't actually do it.
Wow, that's just a scam. So, well, let's talk. I'm sure we'll be talking more about this topic, but let's talk a little bit about Volkswagen and their ID4. This, of course, is their ID4 Pro. It now has an estimated EPA range of 280 miles, which is an increase of 20 miles from the 2021 model. Not bad at all, is it?
That's pretty good. And it'll just get better.
And you get 3 years of 30-minute fast charging sessions with Electrify America included at no additional cost. That's like free gas, right?
That's great. I mean, that's free gas. You're right.
Yeah. So a pretty good deal from the folks at Volkswagen. Also announced this week, Nissan is going to build 2 all-new electric models at their Mississippi plant. And that, I think, is big news. $500 million invested to transform their Canton assembly plant to build the all-new Nissan and Infiniti EV models starting in 2025. And they have invested so far $13.5 billion in its U.S. manufacturing operations overall. So good news. Good news from the folks at Nissan and Infiniti. When we come back, we're going to tell you a little bit about 3G cell service going away. Like Les mentioned, if you have a flip phone, you might have 3G cell service. They're shutting it down so they can have 5G, 4G, and 5G. Problem is, a lot of older cars, a lot of their systems work off of 3G. We'll find out what does that mean for your car. And also, Audi is one of the first to put in 5G systems into cars. So we'll talk a little bit about what that will bring to your vehicle and why it might be a good idea. And then what do you do if you have a Aventador ordered, one of the last of the Aventadors, and, well, it burned up on a transport ship. The assembly line is closed. The parts may no longer be available. What do you do? I don't know. If you're Lamborghini.
Well, in my case, I ordered 2 of them and sent them on separate ships.
Just to be safe. I mean, let's face it.
Yeah.
We're also going to talk tech about a new style hatch that might be coming to a SUV or CUV near you. Instead of flipping up, it would kind of slide over the roof. And I'm going to test Les if he remembers a vehicle from the early 2000s that had that kind of style hatch. So we'll have that coming up on Cruise Control. And then we'll have a review of the Toyota Corolla Hatchback. You know, whenever I get one of these, people love it. They love the way it looks. They think it just looks great. And this one was in a blue that looks sort of like a metallic version of the Ford Grabber blue, or going back to the old days, AMC Big Bag blue. And I have to say, pretty classy with a black roof and that blue body. And the good thing about this car is it's about $25,000, and it's a Toyota. So you probably can go to your dealer, local dealer, and buy it for $75,000. But they'll throw in that can of seat spray and a set of floor mats. Only the cheap ones, though, not the expensive ones, not the expensive rubber ones. But all that coming up on Cruise Control. So a lot more to go. You want to stay tuned. Don't forget to check us out at cruisecontrolradio.com, where you can like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. Always stuff going on our social media pages, and you want to check that out. And Les, when we come back, be ready to be tested on a vehicle from the early 2000s that had a retractable roof hatch. Talk about that and more when we come back on Cruise Control. I'm Fred Staub. He's Les Jackson. We will be right back, so stay tuned to Cruise Control.
And welcome back to Cruise Control. I'm Les. He's Fred.
Hello.
We're going to talk tech because it's that time of the show, and we love to talk tech. This time we're kind of reinventing. I guess that's a good word.
Yeah.
Reinventing tailgates for SUVs that slide rather than lift, or like a Jeep open up like a door.
Yeah, but I have to test you first, Les.
Well,
now I'll give you a hint. I'll give you a hint. This product, I'll give you a couple of hints. This product was promoted and pushed in the early 2000s, I believe around 2004. It's a GMC product, and it had a retractable roof that allowed you to carry tall items in the back. Matter of fact, I remember going on an event and they came up with like bookcases and plants and stuff like that to kind of show what it was. Ring any bells?
I'm thinking of the Denali, but
a little bit smaller.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what that model name was called, because it
had a V6 or a straight 6 or a V8 engine. I'll help you. I'll help you out. GMC Envoy XUV.
Oh yes,
where
Envoy.
It was sort of the roof retracted in, and that's you could basically ride with the roof open and carry tall objects. it wasn't super popular, but it was an interesting design. And now,
well, more interesting than the Pontiac Aztec.
well, but that came with a tent. You could camp in that.
It came with a tent.
I remember being at an event, and the guy said, "I think they have to be really, really lauded for being this brave to bring out a car like that." I said, "You don't get points for bravery in the automotive
No,
industry."
you don't. You
It's
don't.
like, wow, that's really ugly. You were brave to try to sell that.
And no one bought. Well, hardly anyone bought them.
GM
they were
employees, they basically gave
They
them
did.
to them.
They gave them to them internally, and they were really basically a good vehicle.
Yeah, well, if someone gave me it, I'd drive it, wouldn't you?
Sure, it's free.
Yeah. So, well, anyway, let's talk about this story. This comes from our friends over at CarBuzz, and this is also picked up in a weirdest of places from the new Nissan Z forum. It's a Hyundai engineer who's talking about a hatch that a patent they've come up with, a hatch that kind of slides up and over the roof as opposed to opening up like they normally do on a hinge, top hinged, and going up in the air. And the idea is this would be easier to use in certain areas where you don't have a lot of roof clearance, and it wouldn't swing out past the back of the vehicle. It's sort of like a giant sunroof in the back, and you could also drive around with this hatch open and then carry large items in the back.
That's right.
Sliding
with
tailgate.
Incredible wind noise.
Yeah.
But you know, the Europeans have done this. Renault has done it.
Yep.
Several manufacturers have done it. Citroën.
Mm-hmm.
It is in its own way practical. The question is, what would be the demand?
Well, that's true. I don't know what the demand is. Sometimes when things are a little bit different, people don't like it. You know, I don't know. We'll have to see. Would that be a good idea or not? Let us know what you think. Drop us a note on YouTube or Facebook. But it's an interesting concept. But yeah, the GMC Envoy XUV. I wonder if any of those are around anymore, and if you need parts for the roof, what happens?
Probably.
Yeah, and if the roof still works. Well, talking about things
Probably
that
not.
have been around for a while, what about 3G service? Now, 3G service runs a lot of things in your vehicle, and one of the big things that people encountered that might change are OnStar and some of the other telematic systems like that. But these things aren't going to work anymore once 3G goes away. They're just going to go dead, and it's really a little bit of a head scratcher as to what will happen to these services. Will there be adapter kits? There's been some talk that there will be new modems put in, but you know, these things were not, when they were built, they didn't think about 3G service going away.
No,
they thought the next service would be compatible, but what happened is the frequencies used by 3G were sold off, and they're going to be used for something else. So that's why they can't keep 3G up. Interesting, right?
Well, it is. Now, of course, a lot of these vehicles are 10, 12 or more years old.
Right.
So most people that have them will say, well,
I didn't use that anyway.
It's not, I didn't use it much, or it's not worth spending any money to convert it.
Right. Well,
but you know,
well, let's talk.
I would.
Let's talk a little bit about this. It was a deal announced by Audi and Verizon. They're going to partner to bring 5G to their vehicle lineup. And this was announced this week, actually. It's 5G technology. It will be the first to the U.S. automakers lineup. For the 2024 model year, passengers will be able to download or stream entertainment at higher speeds than ever before. And vehicles will be able to receive firmware and software upgrades over the air. Now, that's the key thing why 5G will be great for this. Infotainment and navigation systems will be enhanced with HD and 3D mapping and video and cloud-based user profiles. But then the big thing, that is the next step in autonomous vehicles, will be cellular vehicle to everything, or CV2X technology. Will be part of this deal eventually, and it is going to be crucial to developing.
That's important.
Yeah, I mean,
because you've got to, for full autonomy, you have to have that.
Yeah,
you can't not have it.
And even if you're not fully autonomous, it's not a bad thing to know, like, hey, this car is coming up and it could cross where you're driving, and it's sending a note like, I'm not slowing down, and I'm crossing the road. I also think, here's my idea, why not put some kind of CV2X receiver in, like, clothing? So someone's out walking, and it sends a signal to the car that, hey, this guy is out walking. And, you know, I see this a lot, too. If you're not in a well-lit area, people wearing a black coat, a black hat, black gloves, black pants. And it's like camouflage, right?
Yeah, and you see it everywhere.
You know, and then they just walk out. There are some people around where I live that just walk out because they feel that they have the right to just cross the street in the middle.
They have the right of way, but that doesn't mean anything if the driver doesn't stop.
Right. I mean, you're not going to make your point that you have the right of way when you're laying under the car. So what about putting a sensor, embedding it into the coat?
Absolutely.
You know, and maybe it's something that has a 10-year battery in it, or a 15-year battery or something like that. So,
or just put an app in your phone.
Or put an app in your phone. Yeah, that's fine too. You'd have to depend on them to have the phone on, but most likely, the way the world is, they would.
Most likely.
Yeah, good chance that they would. I think that's kind of an interesting thing. If you have an older vehicle that had some of these 3G systems, and you wake up one morning this year, I don't quite know when the shut-off date is. What you have a 3G car, yeah? Then
I think it's 2G.
it's those old radio, like the World War II radios that you crank up and say hello, hello.
It has tubes.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that. It's one of the things we'll keep talking about on Cruise Control, your on-air automotive magazine. Now, here's a situation. You heard about that ship that is burning up, and there's Bentleys and Lamborghinis and Porsches. Well, we'll talk about what they're going to do about that to replace cars that are no longer built anymore. Plus, I'll have an at-the-wheel review of the Toyota Corolla Hatchback. So stay tuned to Cruise Control. And welcome back to Cruise Control, your on-air automotive magazine. We're going to have an at-the-wheel review. Oh, wait a minute. No, not of this vehicle.
I don't think so.
This is the Lamborghini Aventador, and they are only going to build the Ultimate, I guess it would be called. There are 563 units of this going to be built. Problem is, some of them which were built were on a ship called the Felicity Ace, or Felicity Age, which has 4,000 vehicles from the Volkswagen Group. It's on fire and drifting, and probably all those vehicles were destroyed. The assembly line's been shut down. What happens It's unclear. Automotive News spoke to Lamborghini of America, Andrea Baldi, who said they don't know what can be done about it. They really are trying to figure out, are any of these cars salvageable, and were any of the ultimate models burned up? But interesting story there. Interesting situation for the folks at Volkswagen Group and Lamborghini, right?
Yeah, 4,000 high-end Porsches, Lamborghinis,
Yeah.
Bugatti.
Yeah. Well, let's
Sad.
do something a little bit different, and let's talk about a car that is with a little bit more affordable, and that
A
is
little bit.
that is the Toyota Corolla Hatchback, Les Jackson. I had one of these, and I have to say, it is a great vehicle. I think. Let's start off. I don't normally start off with the price, but this one, $25,954 on the MSRP paperwork. Les is like, so what does that mean?
Yeah, that's right.
And it has basically everything in it. This is a 2-liter, 4-cylinder, 6-speed manual transmission car. Manual transmission. 3 pedals. Manual transmission. You can also
have one of those pedals to the left.
Yes, it does. And it also has something called the IMT drive mode, which is a button you push on the console, which will actually do rev matching and things like that, all for you. Push of the button. Toyota manual cars are really easy to drive, and this is no exception. If you want to learn how to drive a manual, I'd say this Toyota Corolla would be great. But I was struck by the interior, how good it looks, and by the storage in the back. Great storage, nicely finished for a $25,000 car. It had a 2-tone paint treatment. Blue Flame is that color. It's sort of, I have to say, it's sort of like a metallic version of Ford Grabber Blue. But the fact that they do a black roof and a contrasting body color, I think makes this thing look great. They also put extra effort into the wheels, where there's black paint to highlight the spokes, and then brushed look on the spoke wheels. It's inexpensive, but it doesn't look inexpensive. It looks like there's a little bit more panache to this, right? It comes with a complete suite of Toyota Safety Sense pre-collision system with pedestrian detection, dynamic radar, cruise control, lane departure alert with steering assist, automatic high beams, roadside assist, rear cross traffic alert, backup camera, of course, smart key system with push-button start, and the full safety star system. You think about this has got basically everything in it. This is the XSE model. This is the top of the range when it comes to these things. Automatic LED headlamps, so they don't throw in the cheap halogen basic headlamps. It has an 8-inch touchscreen display. It has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. That's one thing that Toyota lagged behind, but now they've gotten with the program, and it's like having a full navigation system on your 8-inch touchscreen, which kind of stands proud of the dash. The seats, while cloth inserts, don't look cheap. And there's buttons and knobs for everything. I love that. Thank you, Toyota, for doing that.
Yes.
As I said, decent storage in the back. By the way, no spare. So I found that out. Not that I needed it, but I always look. No spare, but pretty good storage in the back. I think this would make a great first car or second car, commuter car for somebody. The mileage is great. I believe actually the automatic gets a little bit better mileage, but this got 36 on the highway, 28 city, 31 for the aggregate number, and it gets 5 stars all the way around, except for rollover. It gets 4 stars for that. But overall vehicle score is 5-star rated. How can you go wrong with one of these, Les? It seems like it is a real good value. And then the automatic, I believe it is a CVT. I'll have to check that. Is even faster on acceleration than the manual. So I have to say, I was hoping this one had the automatic because I had tried the manual about a year and a half ago, and I liked it. And I thought, well, I've heard good things about the 2-pedal car, and I wanted to try it. But this one actually happened to be a manual. You and I know we are 2 of the last automotive journalists that can drive a manual. So if there's a manual in the fleet,
that's right.
I had 2 manuals back to back. I had this and the Volkswagen GTI, and I said that is a first not a first, but from a long time ago. You wouldn't have got that, but two-tone dash also. It just looks like they've elevated everything. It's not stodgy anymore. Nice stitching on the seats, as I said, nice cloth inserts, and all for under $26,000. So it's a real good deal. There's some talk that they may be refining this vehicle again in 2023, like a mid-cycle refresh. In Japan, they're going to go with a 3-cylinder engine. That's the word, and a kind of a plug-in hybrid system. But I don't know if that's coming to the U.S. or not. 2-liter is actually a pretty big engine nowadays, isn't it?
It is.
So let's see what else we have. They actually call it out. Enhanced cargo space removes a spare tire to provide extra capacity in the cargo area. It's interesting. And our only options were adaptive front headlights, $415, black roof, spoiler and side mirrors, $500, and carpet matte package. So the whole price, all in with a $1,000 delivery, $25,954. I wonder what these are actually selling for nowadays. Do you have to pay more?
Around the DC area, it's typically for the lower priced vehicles, it's a $3,000 markup.
Wow. Now that hurts, because in the old days you might get $3,000 off the price.
Yeah.
Or a couple of thousand. So you basically be down to around 23 or something like that. But it's a great car, and I have so many people when I have these in the driveway, they comment on they like the shape of it. It's a pleasing shape. As you can see, it was cold when some snow stuck in the grill there. But cold weather, winter testing, real world at the wheel testing. Decent rear legroom in the back, nicely equipped for an inexpensive car. I like the hatchback. Of course, you can get the Corolla in a sedan as well. I think I'd probably go with the hatchback, though. I kind of like that.
I would too. They're more versatile.
Yeah. Nicely put together vehicle, though, the Toyota Corolla XSE. That is our At the Wheel review for this week. We love to review them and tell you all about them. Drive them and tell you all about them. All right. Well, don't forget to check us out at cruisecontrolradio.com. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. Check out the YouTube page. Time for me to say I'm Fred Staub.
I'm Les Jackson.
We're going to see you down the road.
Bye.